Hello friends, how are you? It's Mr. McKinney here with Mr. McKinney's Historic Houston. Excited for our live show we do every single Wednesday at the Heritage Society at 7 o'clock, and we are excited to have you on board joining us. We're really excited. That's why I'm dressed in my special occasion, because Sandra Lord is with us in studio. This is a big deal for us. We're so excited, talking about our brand new book, The Ghost of Houston's Market Square Park. There it is. Much anticipated and available now. We're going to talk all about it, but before we do, we always make sure that we welcome our amazing executive director, Allison Ayers-Bell with the Heritage Society. Allison, come on out, say hello. There she is. Check it out. Hello, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. How are you?
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
This is exciting. You know, we've been waiting for Sandra Lord for like 3 or 4 months now, and she's finally here, and she's finally on the show.
Yes,
I'm looking forward to that. Well, like I said, Allison Bell's been the executive director with us for about, what, 3 years now? 2 years now?
That you find.
Yeah, that's a fun photo.
Three, a little over 3.
It feels like forever.
Feels like 10.
It feels like 10. Well, she's here and she's running things, and we're so excited to have you because she always gives us great information about what's going on at the Heritage Society. This fun photo, talk about this.
Oh my gosh, look at our special, should I tell them of our special guest?
Yes.
So
he's next week's guest. That's why he's out here.
There's a celebrity in this picture. I don't know if you'll recognize that.
Well, there's 2 celebrities in the photo.
You? No.
No, Minette Basil.
Minette, I know.
Minette Basil,
well,
there she is.
This is Robert Sakowitz. Many of you who've grown up in Houston have heard of Sakowitz clothing stores, and he is amazing. He has wonderful stories to tell. He's going to be here next week. And this is our board president, Minette Basil, showing off our mural.
And I love the fact that we're talking about Market Square, the history of Market Square, because she actually had a strong hand in saving Market Square in the late 80s, 90s, and so forth, and actually working with the mayor's office. So a lot of great things have been happening at Market Square. And you're going to hear all about the past and everything that's going on. So we're looking forward to that. Well, let's talk about what's happening at the Heritage Society, because a really fun event is happening tomorrow. Tell us all about it.
Sure. So as you know, our women's suffrage exhibit is still going on until next March, and we have monthly lectures. Sometimes there'll be an individual. This is our first panel discussion, and we're very excited about it. We have a diverse panel.
Look at that.
Isha Pandit co-founded and started a public policy think tank for women. Mary Jane Mudd is the president of the League of Women Voters. Tico Houseman is on their board. Robin Paoli started the Houston Women's March. You may recall
Robin.
In 2017, all the marches across the country, Robin started that. And then our moderator is Olga Rodriguez. She's a close friend of mine, and she is very involved in politics and she's a native
civic
Houstonian.
causes and Latino community as well. So
yes.
she's wonderful. So what a great panel, and let people know when they can tune in.
Sure.
It's happening tomorrow.
Tomorrow night, 6 o'clock. It's a Zoom live panel, and you can go to our website. It's a whopping $5 if you're not a member, and if you are a member, it's free.
So become a member. What a great way to be a member right now. What's the basic membership level start at?
The basic would be $50 is for a senior, $80 is a dual. So we have all kinds of different levels.
Year-round.
Oh, we have a young collectors for $35.
Nice.
So
all different price points, by the way, and especially becoming a member now more than ever makes a big difference.
Free, you'll get tours, you'll get the virtual tour, you won't have to pay that, and all of our lectures, and a discount for our SIP, which I want to talk about that one more.
Yes, that's coming up as well.
So this is tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. And then I don't know, you may not have this slide for me yet. Is there another slide after this?
Let's see. No, we're going right into the big event, or the big, exhibit that's happening here.
Yes,
you don't want to miss out.
Then we talk about this weekly, our women's suffrage exhibit, and we've had a lot more interest. We have a private tour that Ann Sloan will take you on. And you can have 10 of your closest friends and socially distance in the museum. This is a really great exhibit. We've got some wonderful artifacts from local Houston women who were part of the suffrage movement in Houston. For example, Julia Idison with the Idison Library. So
Florence Sterling, just a bunch of Hortense Ward. I love the idea that it's all about Houston women, that focuses on that. You get the national women there too, and then of course Betty Trapp Chapman is the co-curator along with Ann Sloan, who's going to be giving those really special tours.
And we're the only exhibit open right now because the library was going to do one and they're not open, and I think another museum. So we're it. So
and something is happening on October 23rd also, right?
Yes,
Tell people about October 23rd.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, so on October 23rd, we are going to go out onto the steps of City Hall, and a proclamation will be read by one of our female council members, along with the other women council members. They're our honorary co-chairs. a proclamation about Women's Equality Day, which was August 26th, but thank you, Hurricane Laura, we couldn't have it that day. So we've rescheduled it. It's another important date that we'll talk about. It has to do with the court date that Hortense Ward was responsible for getting the women to be able to vote and not have to pay a poll tax. So even though the amendment had been ratified. So that is on October 23rd. It's a Friday. We're going to start at City Hall and we're going to march back to the Heritage Society and have a little outdoor reception, and you can view the exhibit. Like a few
Wonderful. And speaking of the exhibit, if for some reason you're out of state, you're tuning in from all over. We got friends from Phoenix and Arizona tuning in and whatnot. But so we have this virtual tour that's available online. Our buddy Lisa Carey put this together.
Yes.
Talk about the virtual tour.
Oh, sure. This is a wonderful way to just be in your comfort of your home. You can walk. You go on our website, get the $5 tour, and you follow the little circles, and that way you can zoom in and watch your own. Read the panel at your leisure. Panels. This is the timeline, as we've talked about, in the little Model T. And then you can see all the artifacts up close because you'll zoom into those. You can
pinch and zoom in. And more importantly, learning about Houston women's involvement in the 100th anniversary of the suffrage movement. So this is an exciting way that the Heritage Society has been giving back, and especially focusing on Houston stories since 1954. So we're looking forward to that. Our other prize we're looking forward to is prizes. So talk about the prizes. Here we go.
Oh, let me get out my list. Yes, as you recall, last week for Barry Scardino Bradley's show, we had some really good, very interesting questions.
She covered a lot. She covered a lot of Houston's architectural history from 1836 all the way to present day. Her book is still available, by the way, and something that's happening with the Heritage Society AA Houston is happening on October 22nd at 6 p.m., so you need to go to the Heritage Society's website and get information about that. But that's a wonderful lecture that she's giving.
Yes.
And those architects out there that need their credit hours, it's actually going to be offered as well. So we're excited to partner up the Heritage Society and AA Houston.
And you can purchase the book in advance, and part of the proceeds go to the Heritage Society. We sell that. That's on our website as well. And it's a signed copy by Barry. She signed him last week when she was here.
Excellent.
So then we'll talk about it on October 22nd.
Here we go. So if you tuned in the show last time and you paid attention, let's talk about the questions. So real quick, the first question.
What was Barry's second job in Houston in 1979? It was a job preserving Houston's past, of course.
How about that? Okay. And the answer?
And the answer is architectural archivist. She was an architectural archivist. Guess who our winner was?
The first ever, by the way, first ever architectural archivist at the HMRC, the Houston Metropolitan Research Center. So that was significant because, now there's been other folks. I think Sam is the one who manages the archives now for the architectural plans, but she scanned those in and she got the collection going. So really, we're lucky to have her start there. So yes, who was our winner?
Our winner is a lady named Sandra Lord.
So Sandra Lord, who you're going to hear from shortly, actually got that first question right, and probably other questions too, because she's one of our avid viewers, always sharing the Heritage Society's awesome photos and content that Debbie Duty puts together, our communications director. So second question then. So congratulations, Sandra Lord, which you're going to meet her in a second, but let's see.
What organization funded her first book, Houston's Forgotten Heritage? What organization
This was a landmark book created in 1991. What is the organization that helped to make it possible?
It's the Houston Junior League, and our winner is a lady named Sandra Lord.
Oh my gosh! Okay, so it's Sandra Lord again. That means y'all need to all start tuning in and start chiming in. She's very quick.
Yes.
See, and this is how you know it's going to be a wonderful lecture, right? Because if she's got great information about that, she's going to have even better information about this. So we're excited for Sandra Lord winning 2 prizes in a row. So let's start our third question. Here we go.
And I don't know that anybody.
Is it Sandra Lord? No.
No. What Houston landmark is on the cover of the book entitled Ephemeral City?
Okay, you know the book. It's a combination of Barry Scardino Bradley's, efforts with Sight Magazine. It was a big deal. The book had a great, iconic Houston landmark on the cover. What's the answer, first off?
I don't know, because she didn't put it on here.
Oh, that's okay. It's the Astrodome, by the way. The answer was the Astrodome, the 8th wonder of the world. And who got it right?
Nobody.
That's okay. So no one chimed in correctly, so that happens. We'll just put the prizes for the next group. So there we go. But the answer is the Astrodome for those of you that were curious for the answer. So, okay, our fourth question.
I got this one. Okay, what year did George Herman donate the land for Herman Park? And the answer is 1914.
There you go. 1914 is the answer. George Herman gives his greatest gift to Houston, the 1914 Herman Park in the south part of Houston. Who got the answer right? Do we know?
Marcia Lutz.
Marcia Lutz, our buddy Marcia Lutz got it right. Well, that's great because she's tuning in and because she's out there listening to the show. And you can too, by the way. At the end of our show, we're going to have 5 questions from Sandra Lord about her lectures. So pay attention, by the way, and stay to the end. Okay, last question.
What is the building in Houston in which Barnstone and Arbery's best known for, even though Barnstone had nothing to, what is it best known for, even though he had nothing to do with it?
Okay, it's an iconic space in Houston. You may have visited yourself. It just got recently renovated. We're talking about
Rothko Chapel.
the Rothko Chapel. Okay, there you go. And who was the winner?
Some crazy lady named Sandra Lord.
Oh, she's not crazy. She's crazy for Houston history. How about that? So Sandra Lord won again. All right, that means you got to pay attention, guys.
She's good,
The good thing,
man.
hey, you got some chances out there, by the way, for listening, because
Yeah.
Sandra Lord's not going to answer these questions correctly because she's going to be giving out the
And we have
questions.
good prizes. So.
Yeah, we've got some great prizes this time as well, okay, including a copy of her signed autographed book. So we're looking forward to that.
Yes.
Okay, well, let's see. Allison Bell, thank you again for
Thank
joining
you.
us. We do appreciate your time and keeping us up to date on what's going on with the Heritage
And
Society.
quick,
Talk about,
We have an event at the end of this month.
Yes.
It's called a SIP, which stands for See Interesting Places. And we are having it at the Ballroom at Bayou Place. And it is because it was Albert Thomas's office. There's a little area that was his office that looked exactly the same as when he was in his time period. And this ballroom holds 1,000 people, so we can spread out, and you get to take a private tour of his office.
That's
And we'll
right.
have a program with someone speaking about his life and his history.
So you'll learn history about the legacy of Albert Thomas. You'll also make sure you get to tour the space, that beautiful 1967 convention space.
Yeah.
You know, it will be outdone later on in '87 by, of course, the George R. Brown. But it is a really neat space, reconfigured and redone to be an event space. So do not
So
miss
we
out.
hope you can come. Tickets are on our website under events.
Courtesy of our awesome buddy Kirksey Gregg,
Of course,
who is making it
Kirksey.
possible, and of course Laura Woods, our development director, helping to make our SIP happen, keeping
Right.
our SIP going.
Yes.
And I love the way you're making it socially distanced and making it appropriate. So we'll have a lot of fun that night. Do not miss out. Date again?
Is Thursday, October 29th, 5:30 to 8:30.
There you go. Thursday, October 29th. Do not miss out. Come join us for that.
Yeah.
You can get more information, by the way, by
you
contacting.
can call us or come on the website, heritagesociety.org, under the events tab.
There you go.
SIP, See Interesting Places.
Super simple.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Allison
you
Bell, our
all.
executive
Thank
director.
you.
Take care.
Okay.
All right. So we did want to also mention our partner in making this space possible, which is, of course, Kirksey Gregg, for helping us transform our historic tea room into the space that you're getting to view our show right now. Thank you, Kirksey Gregg Productions, LLC, for making it possible. This is our new studio, and we also record a radio show that I do every Thursday at 3 o'clock on KPT 90.1. Thank you again, by the way, to Barry Scardino Bradley, who really gave us a journey through Houston's architectural past. So we do appreciate her being here with us, coming in from Beaumont to make this talk happen. You can also, by the way, as we always mention, check out the talks online. Next Wednesday, October 21st, is another big day here at the Heritage Society because we have with us live in studio the one and only Robert Sakowitz will be joining us, and you need to be tuning in. Have your questions ready because he's got a lot of information about Houston's past, about the overall stores, and the legacy of the Sakowitz department store. He's going to take us through a journey through the beautiful Gulf Building and also through their 1951 mausoleum, that beautiful marble mausoleum on Main Street in Dallas. So you're going to learn all about the Sakowitz legacy once again happening next Wednesday, 7 o'clock, here on this same place, same channel. And we got an opportunity to walk with him and really learn about the history firsthand. He brought some really great archival photos. So you're going to see some firsthand photos, including this ones that he took with his own little brownie camera. This is the opening, the unveiling, the digging of the actual 1951 Sakowitz building over there on Main in Dallas. So these are rare photos that are part of his personal family collection you're only going to see on this show. Do not miss out October 21st. He'll take you on a journey through the entire process, starting out in Galveston back in 1902, coming to Houston in 1910, developing, the 1929 Gulf location you see on behalf of his father and grandfather and Jesse H. Jones, moving, like I said, into their 1951 iconic space, and then, of course, expanding out past downtown to the Galleria and so forth. So you're going to learn a lot from the man himself. Do not miss this opportunity. It's a rare chance for you to hear Robert Sakowitz live in our studio, okay? October 21st. And as always, if you missed Barry Scardino Bradley last week, if you missed Kimber Fountain the week before, make sure you go to our YouTube channel because all these awesome videos are archived at the Heritage Society's YouTube channel. You can look at our subscribers. We don't have a lot, only about 200, so we need you after the show, sometime today, sometime tomorrow, to make sure you like and follow our social media sites, especially our YouTube channel, so we can get our YouTube numbers up. But more importantly, so you can pay attention to some really cool videos that we have here. For example, videos on architectural history, videos on history tours, videos on African American history, all available at the Heritage Society's YouTube channel, okay? And of course, it costs you nothing to simply like these pages, okay? Speaking of pages alike, make sure you like and follow Mr. McKinney's Historic Houston and the Houston History Bus. The reason why we show you that is because we do free tours on board the bus. So as the weather gets nicer, we'll be doing lots of tours, and you get to come join us when you like and follow our social media sites. It's a fun partnership. And speaking of History Bus, we're doing a really cool Haunted Houston, Mr. McKinney's Haunted Houston, on board the bus, and want you to come join us and tune in. If you want information about that, you're absolutely welcome to like and follow our social media sites, or you can very simply call or text 713-364-8674. Yes, that is my actual cell phone. You're more than welcome to text and call, because we'd love to get you on board the bus so you can learn about Houston history firsthand. And, of course, come take a tour at the Heritage Society. We'll do a fun little partnership with that. Well, the moment you've all been waiting for. Sandra Lord, come on down. Come join us. Sandra Lord. This is a big deal. Author of the new book, Ghosts of Houston's Market Square, owner of Houston Walks. Welcome.
Welcome.
Look at this. I'm going to set your little mic up. We'll have you right over here.
All right.
This is a very special day for us because you're going to share with us your knowledge of Houston over the years. You know, when I think about folks that have really seen kind of, Houston grow over the years, and more importantly, document a lot of this history, you think of Sandra Lord. So I just think it's wonderful. Tell people, how did you come about? How did you come to Houston?
Oh, I came to Houston to visit a relative for 1 month in July of 1984, and I hated it. Hated the heat and humidity. I'd come from Montana and San Francisco, so I thought it was boring, and I ended up staying unexpectedly, and I kept complaining for 3 years about how awful it was, and finally I got tired of listening to myself complain, and I said, well, if they don't have walking tours here like they have in San Francisco, that's a niche opportunity. So I went to the Texas room and fell in love with Houston.
I love that story. So you came to Houston in what year again?
1984.
84. And that was a big time in Houston. July. Oh, the heat. Yes. July of 1984, Sandra Lord makes her way to Houston. What was your first impression of Houston?
My first impression of Houston was I-45 from Intercontinental Airport. Needless to say, it was not a positive experience.
Ah.
But then we started to drive through a neighborhood called River Oaks, and my ex-husband said, oh, you're going to be living on Westheimer. Wow, this is really beautiful. And then we kept driving further west, and we got to 7979 Westheimer, where the rental agency had told me, oh, yes, there's trees here. I can see one right outside my window. And she was right. There was one tree outside her window. But it was a great apartment, but it was only one tree on the property.
I love this. So I want to make sure we let people know, if you're tuning in right now, and we know you are, go ahead and give us a like or a thumbs up. Give us a heart. Give Sandra Lord a heart. When you like, right now when you're watching and you hit that like button, what you're doing is you're letting Facebook know this video is important, and they're going to start sharing it on all the social media sites. Our Instagram friends out there, do the same thing. Give us a little heart, a like. I'll give you an example of who's joining us. Kenneth May is joining us. Let's see who else. Laura Woods is joining us, our awesome development director over here. Let's see who else. Oh my gosh, we've got Marsha Lutz is joining us. Catherine, some of your friends over here. I know you know some of these folks over here. You probably know this lady named Debbie.
Was Debbie there?
She is tuning in from Arizona, I believe, right?
Debbie is my co-author. She is the ghost expert. So hi, Debbie.
Richard Mintz is also joining us. Richard runs the Bender, the beautiful Bender Theater out there at Humbles, so it's an historical piece of property, Charles Bender's land out there. So just a lot of fun folks chiming in. Priscilla T. Graham is joining us. Priscilla, give us a heart, give us a thumbs up. Priscilla T. Graham is going to be joining us on the show on November 11th, talking about the history of African-American settlements in Houston. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Please go ahead and hit that like button. Let us know that you're here. And a little bit later on, we'll be chiming in with some really good questions towards the end. So you come to Houston, you're here now. What gets you started with walking tours or educating people about Houston in a healthy way?
Well, I started to do exercise walks through Leisure Learning. I don't know if they're still around, but they were a wonderful way for a newcomer to Houston to learn about Houston. And So on my walking tours, which were supposed to be for exercise, people would always say, well, what is this, what is this, what is this? And I had to learn what it was. And then a group of seniors group in the basement of Foley's asked me to do walking tours for their senior citizens who came into downtown. And so I said, well, I don't know anything about downtown. And they said, well, you know more than we do. So I called them adventure walks. They cost $1 whole, so nobody could complain. And each Tuesday and Thursday, we went off on an adventure. And the favorite one I told Mr. McKinney and Allison was the time we went to the Esperson building. And I said, well, let's see what's on the 27th floor. So 10 ladies cram onto the elevator and go up to the 27th floor. The door opens, and there's a man standing there in a cowboy hat and boots and his briefcase in his hand. And he said, who are you? And I said, well, who are you? And he said, well, I'm the attorney who owns this space. And I said, well, I'm trying to show these ladies about the Esperson building. So long story short, he took off his hat and put down his briefcase. And the next thing you knew, we had a tour of the Esperson building by a man who'd worked for Mrs. Esperson.
I love that. So really, a lot of what you've learned is through interviewing folks.
Exactly.
Really, and getting to know these individuals. And you did it at a time when Houston was booming in the 80s. You know, I mean, you had the bust, obviously, but you came at a time, I think, when Houston was really kind of growing. You look at the skyscrapers, for example, you know, at that time period, a lot of them are just finished, being finished, 86,
well,
we
Wells
finished.
Wells Fargo Plaza was just finishing.
Yeah.
And then the Texaco Heritage Building was a see-through building.
In 86, you're right. It was completed in 86, but you're there in 84 looking at all that. So I just think you're the right person, right place, right time. And, you know, you're so passionate about Houston. Phil Stewart, by the way, just chimed in saying, I love Sandra Lord. He said, she taught me everything I know. So I know there's so many folks out there that you've really touched and impacted. In fact, I remember what I know you as, and I think a lot of Houstonians know you as, what is something that you were famously coined by a local reporter?
Oh, a local reporter named Ralph Bivens, and he has the RNR report. You need to sign up for it on the internet. He was a real estate writer for the Houston Chronicle back in the day. And he was my first big interview. And he brought along a really good photographer, so I was really impressed with all of this. But I was still new to having the media around. So while the photographer was setting up a photograph in the tunnel between 1 and 2 Shell Plaza, Ralph kind of sidled over to me and said, you know, Sandra, do you mind if I call you the tunnel lady? And I said, oh, Ralph, please don't do that. So 2 Saturdays later, I opened up the Houston Chronicle, and the whole, I guess, 3/4 of the front page was the tunnel story, and then 1/4 above the fold was a story about the tunnel lady. So I learned what not to tell the media, and then if I wanted the media to tell me something, I told them not to.
I love that. Hey, Peter Basil's tuning in, by the way, which we're going to talk about him. So your buddy
his
over there.
photographs are, you know, some photographs he took are in the book.
Yes, are in the book, which is great. And then Christina Hornberger Somerville on our board is also tuning in. She's connected to the Pelot family, one of the descendants. So lots of fun folks are tuning in. They're chiming in. So like I said, please let us know. Give us a hearts. Give us a thumbs up. Well, let's dive into your book, because I think that's what's really exciting. Talk about your book a little bit. How long did this take you to put together?
3 years.
3 years. And it might have, but it's your first published book. So you've been doing, right,
No,
your first?
I had 2 published books. One in 1992 called Taste of the Tunnel Map and Restaurant Guide, and one in 1994 called Tunnel Walks. And they were both printed right down at Kinko's. And they were #7 bestsellers at Barnes & Noble, because this was before the internet. So the only way you could find out about the tunnel was through the tunnel lady.
I love that. And what's really neat about your partnership with Arcadia is that this book is everywhere. You can get this on Amazon. You can get it at Barnes & Noble, and you can get it everywhere. Or you can, also go to your website to get information about what you do, which is really important.
You can get it at my local Walgreens in West 20th Street in the Heights.
That's right. You're a resident of the Heights, so you love history. It's always all around you,
right,
which is really exciting. Well, let's dive into Market Square, because everybody wants to know about Market Square. So let's take us on a journey through your book and A Ghost of Houston's Market Square Park, okay? So here we go. This map, let people know what they're looking at here.
Okay, this map is supposed to be, maybe, the first printed map of this town of Houston. And it was done in 1836. And one of the ways that you know it's one of the first maps is that here's Congress Square, which is Market Square Park now. But look at that block above it, Block 43. It's empty. There's nothing written on it. And I thought, well, that's weird. And eventually I found out that that was because the man who bought the block for $6,000, Robert Wilson, then donated it to Sam Houston. And the Houston family didn't even have anything on the deed records until 1892. So that is where Sam Houston had his first office, right here on the corner of Travis and Preston Streets.
So it's just one block south of Market Square directly, right?
Right.
Yeah, so there you go.
And so in May of 1837, right about the time of the opening of the second session of the first Congress of the Republic of Texas, John James Audubon, the famous naturalist, came up Buffalo Bayou, got off a rowboat, and walked up Travis Street to call on the President of the Republic of Texas. So how many places in Houston can you go where John James Audubon and Sam Houston sat down and had a conversation?
Well, it's a parking lot now, right? So you can technically stand.
Well, yeah, it's a wonderful parking lot. If you go to the top floor of the parking garage, there you have an amazing view of Market Square Park. We took some of the photographs from there.
And those are your buddies. I mean, you develop relationships with a lot of the folks, which we will talk about a little bit later on. But I think in doing this for nearly four decades, I mean, you get to meet some really special people, and they trust you, they love you, and they want to give you, they just probably can't wait to talk to you, you know, hey, guess what's going on? I mean, you have a way of getting the stories out there like a good old-fashioned reporter. So we love the fact that you're sharing your knowledge with us tonight and really kind of getting it out there. So who is this gentleman here?
This is Augustus Allen, and he was the oldest of the 6 Allen brothers. He was born in 1806, and what he's carrying in his hand is very essential to the book and to Houston. Those are metal things that you put down in the water to find out how deep the water is. And so when he couldn't buy a land in Galveston and Harrisburg was tied up in litigation, he looked at Buffalo Bayou and said, you know, I think the water keeps on going, the tide keeps on going further west. And so he went with those, and I'm having a senior moment. I can't remember what they are, so if you want to know what they are, you have to read the book. But anyway, he went with those up Buffalo Bayou, and he would drop them in and then pull them up, and he would know how deep the water was, and that way he could tell there was a tide. So because of that, we now have the town of Houston at the intersection of Buffalo Bayou and White Oak Bayou.
Now, there's another statue at City Hall. Who's this gentleman here?
Well, this is his younger brother. This is the salesman, and he's got the map in his hand. And right here, he's got a magnolia flower, and it's a watch fob. And apparently he got that from a friend who helped him out during the runaway scrape. So he was Mr. Personality, and he helped to sell the town of Houston.
And we're asked to speak a little bit louder. People are chiming in. They're being honest.
Oh,
They're
they
saying
can't
this
hear.
a little bit out
Okay.
louder, so that's
All
okay. Rusty Sign joined us too, which is wonderful. Wendy Phillips joined us. Ooh, Daniela Stewart, our buddy over there with the magazine. Yeah, in the Heights. Allison Bell says hello, and so do I. Thank you, Danielle. Wonderful. Okay, so, and the great thing about it is these particular statues were a concept earlier. It never really got done with City Hall, and they ended up putting them not too far, not in the distant future. They've been put out there probably, about 8 years now? 6 years or so?
But anyway, I want to give credit to the lady who gave me these photographs. It is the sculptor Lori Betts, B-E-T-Z. And so she sculpted these for a fundraiser in order to put these statues on the Smith Street side of City Hall, which is where they were planned to be when City Hall opened up in 1939. And they didn't have the funds to do it, so now we have them. And so there's Augustus and John.
We just need a Charlotte Allen statue one day, right?
Yes.
One day we'll get it, or Honest Bob, which you'll talk about. So we'll get it one day. Okay. So guess what? Houston's always had a love affair with marketing. And this, of course, is what? Tell people what we're looking at.
This is the advertisement that appeared in the Telegraph and Texas Register on August 30th, 1836. And on August 24th, Augustus and John had purchased 1 league of land from a man named William Tennant Austin. And then on August 26th, 2 days later, they purchased the bottom half of the other league from Elizabeth Elliott Austin Parrott. And the story that I think everyone needs to know is something that I was able to prove in the book. And that is when they sat down with Mrs. Parrott, she said, the bottom half of this league will cost you $5,000, $1,000 cash down today, and the rest payable in notes by 1838. So a man named Robert Wilson that nobody remembers reached in his pocket and pulled out the $1,000. So Robert Wilson was one of the 3 owners of the town of Houston.
And not many people know about Honest Bob or Robert Wilson's legacy, but you do cover it in your book.
Well, he's my ghost.
Yeah, he's one of the many ghosts. And by the way, when we talk about the ghosts of Market Square Park, really a lot of it is about just kind of that their spirit embodies the space. We might be thinking about, hatchet ghosts or bad ghosts, but it's really just their energy is there, right? Their story is there. Yeah. And that's what you cover in the book so well, is you're introducing these Houston characters to the audience, to the readers. So we'll keep going a little bit here. So again, this advertisement, many people know this, and what I love about it is this really is the birth of Houston. Although, as you mentioned in your book too, the property was purchased on August 26, 1836. We as Houstonians, we as the city of Houston will celebrate their birthday on August 30th because of this advertisement. It made it real. It made Houston a real thing.
Now, it's very interesting if you go back and you start to look at the portal of Texas history and look at other old advertisements about the same time that were partially owned by this same unknown Robert Wilson, you will see that the advertisements are almost identical. So I think he had a hand in the advertisement as well. He definitely had a hand in the map because he took the drawings for the map to New Orleans and had them lithographed and then put them in his office and handed them out to the senators and congressmen in West Columbia at the first session of Congress of the Republic of Texas, and that's when they started to sell the land.
And a real quick shout out to our friends over at the Flying Saucer on Instagram.
Oh, hey.
The Flying Saucer is tuning in on Instagram, so thank you for doing that.
Right.
And then more folks are joining on the Facebook page, so we do appreciate more folks. Roger C. Elder, Melinda Barneycastle, just a lot of fun folks that are chiming in, which we appreciate. So thank you for doing
so
that.
much.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, let's keep on. Talk about this iconic space.
So right away, you need to have a place for everybody to meet for the city government, and then you also need a marketplace. So this was the jail and the city hall, and this was the market. So this was our first city hall, and it was built in 1838. This was our second city hall. Now I need to get my cheat sheets for the dates because I'm not really great on dates. So this is the second city hall, and this was the most elaborate city hall. This was built by our Reconstruction mayor named Thomas Scanlon, and he decided that it needed to have a performance hall on the second floor complete with crystal chandeliers. Unfortunately, it also burned down.
And what's great at the Heritage Society, if you go to our YouTube page, you'll see that we have Thomas Scanlon's bird bath. We call it the fountain, the Scanlon fountain now.
The Scanlon
but it was
sisters,
a bird bath in front of his house, so that's really neat. And of course, you probably also know his daughters. He had 8 daughters, I believe, and then one of them was Kate. 7 daughters, and one of them was Kate Scanlon. And she would carry on his legacy through a variety of spaces, including the 1924 Ritz Theater. So here we go.
So this is Second City Hall, 1873 to 1876. And I have a wonderful story that nobody else has about the first architect of the building. And you've got to read it. I had to track him all the way down just to prove that he was real, all the way to Concord, Concord, Massachusetts, where I found out it's the Hoare family, Hoar, and he had just graduated from Harvard or Yale, and so he went on this tour of cities with Thomas Scanlon to try to decide what they were going to make our marvelous city hall look like. And then he came back, he got the job of city engineer, and apparently he'd already done some work on the first building at Texas A&M. They fired him, so we got him instead. And when the builder got a hold of the plans and started to do the building, he realized that there was no stairway between the first and second floor. So needless to say, he did not have his contract renewed.
And the next city hall after that?
That is by a real architect, because when the second city hall burned down, the insurance company wouldn't pay for the insurance unless the insurance company got to choose the architect. So they had a contest. These are not my questions. So this is the third city hall, and this was done by a Frenchman named Duhamel, and he was an architect. So it was done really well. It came in under budget, and it was very well done.
And we actually have the bell inside this, the fire bell.
Yes, you have the bell. Well, the bell actually...
And then we have the clock gears from the one you're going to show us in a little bit.
The bell actually started all the way back in the first city hall in 1838. And when the fire took place of the second city hall, they got a new fire bell made. But anyway, so you had a clock tower, and then you had a bell tower. And so the bell that was in this building is now in the Freedman Clock Tower at the corner of Travis and Congress Streets.
Which has a fun Heritage Society connection, which we'll talk about later on.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a really fun little tidbit.
So this burned down also, and in 1904 we got our fourth city hall, and that was done by a really great architect named George Dickey, D-I-C-K-E-Y, very professional, and it was really great. You had the infamous now,
Dick Dowling statue.
Richard Dowling statue here, and then over on the other side, you had the World War I monument, which is now right out in the park here in the Heritage Society. And then you had the fire bell, and then you had the famous clock at the top. And that is what's the name of the famous clockmaker?
Thomas.
See, I'm doing a senior moment. So that'll be one of the questions.
Seth Thomas? Seth Thomas.
Seth Thomas, I was going to say. So
Won't
that'll
be one of the
be
questions
on there.
now. We gave it away.
That'll be one of the questions.
Oh no, we gave it away. I can't do that.
But
Keep going.
one thing you need to know about all these city halls is they're not just where the government met. On the ground floor was a city market. So while you were sitting in city council meeting, you could smell the fish being sold in the city market. And actually, by the 1920s, the market was more successful than the neighborhood. It was a huge market.
And then, like everything else, this burned down. So this was a bust. So in 1939, of course, city government moves to its current location, and then this becomes a bus depot from 1940 until 1960.
Now, in the book is a story that I discovered, and I called it The End of the Allen Brothers, only to find out that by the lady who commissioned those two sculptures of the Allen Brothers, she gave me some history of the family, and I'm like, oh, there are still some relatives left. And so there actually are some left, but there was a murder. And so if you want to read about that story, you'll have to get the book. I'm not going to tell you.
That is a great story.
You would have heard it if you came on one of my tours, but you're going to have to read it now. But anyway, so because this was a bus station, the family, some members of the family sued the city and said that the deed that Charlotte Allen had given to the city said that it could only be used for city purposes, for public purposes. It could not be used to make money. And so one of their great ideas was, the city's great ideas, that it was going to build a motel with an underground parking garage in the center of Market Square Park. Don't you love it? So luckily, none of that happened. City Hall, this became the bus station, and then it burned down also.
And it was completely demolished in 1962, which kind of gives way for a parking lot, but then eventually some new opportunities will show you and later on.
Well, also what happened when it was demolished is that the bell and the clock were moved, and they were moved to the basement of the kind of tunnel that connects City Hall and the City Hall Annex. And they were individually and one at a time. They got separated, they got lost, and then kind of the story of Market Square Park also is the story of how the bell and the clock got united in the Friedman Clock Tower.
All right. Now, talk about this version of Market Square.
Well, this is Peter Basil's photograph of the first version of Market Square Park. This is when it stopped being Market Square and became Market Square Park. Thanks to Minette Basil and her friends, it got put on the National Register of Historic Places. And so for the bicentennial, the National Bicentennial, one of Houston's gifts to the nation was Tranquility Park. Tranquility Park has a tunnel. It has a huge parking garage and a tunnel. So it's really a roof garden. It's really the predecessor for Discovery Green. And so as the bulldozers were hauling out the dirt from Tranquility Park, they came down the street and dumped it into Market Square Park and gave us hills. Isn't that wonderful? So we had hills. There was only one bad thing about the hills. Nobody knew who was on the other side of the hill. It could be a nice friend of yours, or it could be a street person. And usually it was a street person, unfortunately. And actually they decided it was a great place to hang out, and so they hung out there and nobody else did. So this is when Market Square Park became a part of the Main Street Market Square Historic District. And
it's gerrymandered in such a special way to obviously grab the structures that it's needed, but there it is. You can kind of see that, and here's an up-close version of where Market Square is at.
Yeah, no, this is before it was a park, but, you know. So you'll need to remember for the questionnaire what the number of the square was. It was block 34, and then when it says surface parking, that would be block 43, which is where Sam Houston had his office. Now, this was the second version of the park. This is when they got rid of the hills and worked with Diverse Works. It was Diverse Works' idea. It was a lot of hard work to put it together. And they flattened it out and put in diagonal crosswalks. And Paul Hester, a local artist, took historic photographs and put them in such a way that he could put them onto the backs of these benches. And then this is James Searles' beautiful point of view. So it's kind of like going from the past into the future and out into space.
And what's neat about that park is, and you'll see newer versions of this done as well once we move the park forward into the 2000 teens area. But I love that the history is kind of sprinkled throughout, you know. And
right.
You'll give us more examples in a second of how history is preserved within Market Square.
Right.
So we'll go to the next photo. And, of course, you talked about it a little earlier, but talk about it now.
Well, this is the Friedman Clock Tower. There was a lot of drama about getting the bell and the clock back together again. Again, I'm not going to tell you how it happened, but it did happen. And thanks to the Meyer family and the Friedman family, they took a little piece of land that belonged to the Meyer family, and the Friedmans donated the money, and you've got this beautiful bell and clock tower. And it really is like the symbol of the downtown historic district.
And the connection to the Heritage Society is one of our amazing board members, Barry Moore, an architect and somebody with Gensler, and just somebody who's left a long-standing legacy, even through his uncle Harvin C. Moore. And Faith Bybee is actually one of the founders of the Heritage Society, so lots of connections to the Moore family. But he was the one who designed this space and got it in there. Yes. So architect for it. Right. So I think that's just wonderful, a little bit of that. And the way they incorporated the bell and the clock gears and made it part of Houston's history. So, and even artists as recently have done installations with that too. You can see some lighting opportunities, things like that. So just a fun way.
Well, when you walk down there, you'll see stories of how everything came together, and then they have works of the clock inside. This photograph is something that needs to get some recognition. My editor, Ben Gibson, who was very long-suffering, he kept saying, Sandra, you're writing too much. There's too much history. And finally he said, after a year of my writing, he said, Sandra, you need to start with the map. Forget anything before the map. So I had to throw out 100 pages. But anyway, thanks to him, we couldn't get a good photograph of the tower, of the clock tower. So he has a friend who works here in Houston. He called her. She ran down on her lunch hour, and look at that beautiful photograph.
Oh, it's the lighting
So her
there.
name is Linda Pham, and everybody give her a shout out. I haven't met her yet, but I'm ever so grateful for that photograph.
Linda Pham gets a shout out. And once again, Flying Saucer, we're so impressed. She's hanging out with us, your friends over at Flying Saucer in the old Crest building, the beautiful 1913 Crest building, and then some other folks too. Let's see who else. The Lehas, I guess. So they're also tuning in. Families tuning in. That's wonderful. Well, let's go to the next photo. Who are
These are my 4 friends. They came on a tour with me about 15 years ago, and we took this photograph, and it was so good. I kept telling them, one of these days I'm going to put this in a book. And by the time I finally got it together, they were no longer working for the same company or belonging to the same organization. But within the last month, we got them all back together again. So I'm not going to try to embarrass myself with who is who, but this is the ringleader. This is Laurie. And this is at the kind of a pre-version of the Market Square Park that we have now.
And I like the look. You can see the gargoyles from the original, from the past buildings,
Well,
rather.
these gargoyles were used. These are the same gargoyles that you'll find on the Rice Hotel, and then you've got a chronology. There's so much information on those concrete towers. They're really wonderful.
Yeah, it's an educational feast to go walk through Market Square Park and be able to see what's going on. Another way that history is preserved. Talk about what we're looking at here.
Well, when Diverse Works was working on the second version of the park, they decided to get 5 artists together, and one of them was Richard, again, having a senior moment on the name of the artist's last name, so you'll get a prize if you remember that. And he went around and found pieces of old buildings and put them into what's called the History Walk, and that survived in the current version of Market Square Park. Now this is new. This was a new thing for Market Square Park. Again, this is Paul Hester's metal work, and it was put up by Blumenthal Metal, and it has 2 sides to it. I thought it was just one side, but the guys who were putting up, when they were putting it up, they said, no, it's got 2 sides. So this is the old city with the bio, and then when you walk on the other side of it, looking at it from the dog park, you see the new city with the skyline.
And did you talk about this? That little
Well,
bit?
this is another piece of the History Walk.
Yeah,
Yes.
wonderful, wonderful. Okay.
Now, again, for the Diverse Works version of the park, they had Malou Flateau. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. And she was an artist, and she created these mosaic tile benches in the center of each of the blocks around Market Square. And they sit like right behind the sidewalk. And each one has a different design representing something that happened in the Market Square Park. And then when they did the new version of the park, they put in the water tables on Preston Street and on Congress Street. So those of you who used to take tours with me late at night when nobody could tell what was going on, I would say, oh, there's a nice place where you can sit down too. No. And every once in a while someone fell for it.
Oh, that's horrible. I'm
very cruel to my walkers. So this is another one of her beautiful, and this is in the new Market Square Park. Isn't it beautiful? I took this photograph. I'm very proud of it.
And it's celebrating a milestone, right? The renovation of the renovation, and or the newest, right? I mean, they just had a big,
it's 10 years old. It's 10 years old now. Yeah, it's hard to imagine it's that old.
And the dog park is so fitting because of all the residential components that are right around the area.
The dog park is wonderfully wonderful. When you go down to the dog park, you need to read the rules. The rules say that the little dogs can stay in the little dog park, but they can go visit the big dog park if they want to. But the big dogs cannot go in with the little dogs.
Oh my
so
gosh.
it's like it's like the United States election. You know, you've got the popular election, then you put it into the Electoral College, and the little ones get to pick out who gets to be the president. So no political connection here at all. But anyway, so what I always loved to watch was the little dogs in with the big dogs, totally terrorizing them. They would go hide behind rocks and then bark at them, and the big dogs were scared to death. So it's great to watch. This was put in the newest version of Market Square Park, and it was done by the family of a lady who died on Flight 93 during 9/11. And it is absolutely magnificent. And it sits on the Congress Street side of the park, and it's just something you've got to see. There's a lot of interpretation in there that I won't go into, but it's in the book.
Yeah, Lauren's Garden. It's our only official 9/11 tribute memorial.
Yes,
so the
is.
mayor will come here and lay a wreath, on 9/11 to honor the folks. And it's all in the book, so you'll learn more about it.
But
there.
the family also made sure that it was surrounded by beautiful gardens.
Mm-hmm.
So the plantings on this side of the park, the plantings in the park in general, they were done by the landscape architect Lauren Griffith. But the plantings that the downtown district and the Parks and Recreation put in are just magnificent. This is a beautiful, beautiful park.
So Kay Lucas is watching. Selba is watching. Patricia Martinez is watching. Catherine Cartley is also watching. So that is awesome. And your buddy Debbie Brandon is also on board too. So lots of fun folks chiming in, and we're going to get to our questions very shortly. Let's keep on going. Another one of these.
This is the other side. This is the modern side of the Blumenthal Hester fence around around the dog park. So we decided to put this in as kind of the divider between Chapter 1, which is the history, and Chapter 2, which is like the ghost stories. So Chapter 2 talks about a story. There's a ghost story or a historic story on each one of the 4 blocks that surrounds Market Square Park. And then for Debbie, I'm not a ghost expert. To me, a ghost is a dead person. To Debbie, it's much more scientific. So we have the short guide to the paranormal for those of you who want to know everything paranormal in the book. My granddaughter took this photograph. I'm so proud of her, Ariel. She got her name in print for the first time. This is on the side of what used to be called Treebeards, and it's the wonderful mural Houston
Houston is inspired, yeah.
And then there's Treebeards. This is the 300 block of Travis Street. And then here's the park over here.
So real quick, before we get close to the end.
Yes, this is the end.
And this is going to be the end. And now talk about this building real quick. It's in your book, but it has a famous family that people might not be familiar with, or they might not know they're familiar with it. But this building is owned by which family? Or
this is owned by the Meyer family, actually the Baker Meyer family. And it's a little complicated. When Sam Houston lived here, and he had Block 43, and then he had lots 9 and 10 on the corner of Travis and Preston. A man named George Baker eventually bought those lots from him. And George Baker was a butcher. He was a cattle raiser and a butcher. And he also bought part of Sam Houston's rancho, which is out where West Dallas is now in that general area. So he kind of replaced Sam Houston in many ways. And he had a daughter named Rebecca. And so George Baker also bought this property here. And he built a very beautiful building, and it had a very classy facade and everything. And Rebecca fell in love with a young man from down in Block 19, way down there at 802 Franklin Street, named Joseph Meyer. And Joseph Meyer's mother moved into a little cottage not too far from where we're located now. That is the San Felipe Cottage. And so... Which
we have here at the Heritage Society, by the way. You can tour the San Felipe Cottage.
And so Rebecca and Joseph got married. But before they got married, Joseph was a bachelor. So every night he would bring home from the hardware store a wooden box, a wooden crate that he had used, gotten materials out of, and he would bring them over to the San Felipe cottage and created a half story on the second floor. So when I talked to Kenny Myers, who is a descendant of the Baker Meyer family, he said he remembered that they built the attic with these crates, and would I check and see if there were any of those crates left in the attic, and we did find them. So they are up there inside the attic. So it was a true story, and that is the connection between this building and Sam Houston Park and the San Felipe cottage.
I love that. Let's see who else is chiming in. Sandra says, Debbie, your co-author of the book, says, ask Sandra how we met and decided to do the book together. This is going to be a great story. I know you want to hear about that, so tell people.
So Debbie came to Houston with her significant other, whose family lives in Texas. They'd been on a cruise, and she called me and says, we're going to be in Houston for a Sunday afternoon. Do you have tours on Sundays? I said no. So we started talking, and I said, okay, well, I'll meet you down at the Spaghetti Warehouse. And so we met at the old Spaghetti Warehouse, and she did a kind of a version of my broomstick adventure, which is going around to different haunted cemeteries and so forth. But we ended up spending about 4 hours together and staying in touch. She went back to Phoenix. We stayed in touch. And we decided we were going to write a book together about 10 years ago. And finally, she got so tired of me saying, well, I just have to do one more edit on the book. It's just not quite ready yet. And she said, I'm writing for Arcadia, Sandra. Why don't you give them a call? So that's why, kicking and screaming, this book got published. Thank you, Debbie.
I love that. Okay, so here's the fun part. We now get to ask questions, okay? Okay. And by the way, Lisa Wharton just signed up, just joined us on. My buddy Lisa Bunzy, she's joining us too. One of a beautiful actress here in Houston, and also a friend with HISD for many years. So, hey, Lisa, what's going on? Let's see. So, well, two Lisas, Wharton as well. So, question number one. What's going to be your first question?
Okay. So, who was the man who rode up Buffalo Bayou in May of 1837 to meet with Sam Houston? What was his name? And I don't have these written down.
So say the question one more time. That's okay. No, they're supposed to be spontaneous, so real quick.
So what was the name of the man who rode who rode up Buffalo Bayou in May of 1837 so that he could meet with Sam Houston?
Okay. All right, so you heard the question. The second question.
What was the block number that Sam Houston had his office on?
Okay, that's a big one. What is the block number that Sam Houston had his office on, okay? Third question.
Okay, so third question is, what is the last name of the architect from Concord, Massachusetts, who was the architect on the second City Hall?
Okay, look, we got folks chiming in. Sharon Sampson is chiming in. Phil Stewart chimed in, by the way. He had an idea. Rose chimed in. Catherine, our buddy Catherine's been chiming in for a while. Marsha Lutz also chimed in. Jeannie Deal also chimed in. So yeah, look at that. People are actually answering the questions. And again, you're going to know who the winners are next week, okay? But that's super important. So there we go. Okay. Your next question, think about it, make it a good one. Make it maybe about something a little more contemporary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where did the dirt come from for the first version of Market Square Park?
Good question. Where did the dirt come from for Market Square Park? That's the question. Where did the dirt come from Market Square Park? Okay. Next one.
Is this the last one?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not too sure. Do we have enough questions?
What is the name of the man who paid the $1,000 down payment for the town of Houston on August 26, 1836? Okay.
What is the name of the man who put the down payment, your buddy your friend, the one that you've been talking about more than anybody else. So that's going to be one of the questions. Okay, those are our 5 questions, right?
Thank you.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
5 questions. It's that
I
easy. It
think
goes by
that's
pretty
5,
quickly.
yeah.
So real quick, let's have people chime in with questions they may have about your book. Here it is, by the way, The Ghost of Houston's Market Square, available everywhere. I mean, you just have to Google it and it'll pop up for sale. Okay, so we've got it up and running here. No more test questions because those 5 were answered. But if you've got questions for Sandra Lord, it's your only opportunity now to ask them. We've got them right over here on our screen. So any questions for Sandra Lord, questions about Market Square Park. I do have got one question real quick. We talked a little bit about the spirits, but real quick, maybe give them one of the fun ghost stories, or just maybe tease a little bit. Tell people about maybe the one ghost, that has a Heritage Society connection. We found that out the hard way. Talk about that ghost. How about that?
Now, wait a minute. That is a secret. But one day, when I came down here to see about doing this show, I met Allison again. I hadn't seen her for several years. And so we started talking about and telling stories and everything. So I said, well, one of the stories that I have in the book is about the ghost at La Carafe. And
Carl.
And she said, well, we used to hear something about a man named Truscott, who taught at Lamar High School. And I went, oh my gosh. So I haven't verified it, but I think that Carl Truscott, who is the ghost at La Carafe, is probably Allison Bell's French teacher.
And you know what? And Allison Bell, our executive director, actually confirmed that.
She did?
Yes, she did. I mean, she's the one who was there, so she has a connection, her French teacher. I just love that story, and that you were able to bring it to us. So one person asked, and by the way, Patty just chimed in to watching us now. Catherine asked the question, does she offer tours?
I am working on virtual tours now. I just had a birthday yesterday, and so I'm a year younger than City Hall. So that'll give you an idea. Well, I'm not doing a lot of walking, but I am working on virtual tours. So just sign up for my Facebook page at Houston Walks or at Sandra Lord, and I'll be sure to let you know when they're out. I'm working on them now.
So once again, you can go to houstonwalks.us, which is your website. It has your phone number on there. It has your contact information. So if you've got questions for Sandra Lord, if you want her maybe come speak at your group or talk to folks virtually, she can do that. She'd be happy to chime in. We'll bring you here to the studio, and you can do it from there. How about a Zoom call? But she's got so much great knowledge. We are so blessed to be able to have it put in this brand new book that you can purchase or win a copy, because we got some books we're going to give away tonight for sure for those folks that answer those questions right. The book again is The Ghost of Houston's Market Square. There it is. We want to thank again Sandra Lord for joining us here on the live show we do live from the Heritage Society with Mr. McKinney. Once again, HoustonWalks.us is her site, and we have a fun little surprise for you. So.
Oh my goodness! Oh.
Here we go.
Oh my Lord. Now, I told Mr. McKinney it is impossible to surprise me.
She did, but we found a way.
You did it.
We found a way. 80 years young.
Oh, I've got
There it is.
yellow roses. Thank you.
And lots of
thank
balloons.
you so
Manette Basil,
much.
our board president, there she is. And Allison Bell.
Manette and I both are from Pittsburgh and met each other here, so thank you.
I love that. We got to sing happy birthday. So everybody out there, let's do it together. It's time to sing happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sandra. Happy birthday to you. Look at that. All right.
Thank you so much.
More.
And they even have the 80 on there. Oh, thank you,
That's
Allison.
right.
I really appreciate that.
We need a key and slider for
Look at that. I know. Look at that.
Thank you very much.
Well, look at this. I think you'll like this too. Do you know what this is?
Oh my gosh. Oh.
Can you guess what this is? Can you guess what this is right here?
That's block 43.
And look at all,
What
this is from
year, what year is this from?
1929. It's a map from, it's an insurance
It's the
map
it's the
from
San-
Pittsburgh from 1929. It's a rare company, okay? And you can see all the owners like Studi.
Oh my
And you can see
gosh.
Baker Meyer over there. You can see all the families
Oh, bless your heart.
that own the map. So there you go.
Oh, thank you ever so much.
Yeah, how about that?
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And everybody who chimed in tonight to watch, I really, truly appreciate it. And Phil Stewart bought Discover Houston Tours, and he's keeping it going. So it is the oldest continuing operating tour company in Houston.
Look at that. Thanks to you and thanks to your efforts. So once again, we want to thank Sandra Lord for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We also want to make sure that we thank you. You for tuning in,
Oh,
you for joining us on the live show we do. Thanks again to Alana, to Isaac Saravia, to Kian Harden, to Kai, also to Harrison Funchess, our videographer, and of course to Allison Ayers-Bell, our executive director, and Minute Basil, our board president. Again, good night. Thank you to you, and happy birthday to Sandra Lord.
Thank you.
We will see you next week with Robert
Thank you,
Sakowitz.
crew.
Take care, Houston.
This is amazing.